Sensational defeat of Chelsea against Ipswich. Manchester United on the verge of leaving the APL. Another humiliation of the Mancunians. English media write about the transfer to Cristiano Ronaldo in Manchester City. Florentino Perez will sign Erling Haaland even if he cannot sell Vinicius. Barcelona's first transfer to the winter window. And the new coach of Milan. We talk about this and much more today. Friends, this is a football news and the top 10 hottest news for this hour. Enjoy watching. Atletico Madrid continues to please with its results, demonstrating that the team is ready to fight for the La Liga championship. The last match against Barcelona became a kind of return to the roots of the club, which many remember for its ability to build a reliable defense and win with character. And although Diego Simeone's tactical schemes in this match caused fans a little disappointment, the main thing is that the team took 3 points, which give it confidence and strength in the fight for the title. The current situation in the championship is going well for the Madrid players. The main competitors, Barcelona and Real Madrid, are going through difficult times. The Catalans, despite a good start to the season, do not have enough resources to cope with the load on all fronts. The squad looks extremely limited, especially when it comes to replacing key players. Real Madrid, in turn, faces problems in attack and instability of results, which has been mentioned more than once in previous issues. All this creates ideal conditions for Atletico to win the gold of La Liga once again. The key figure of this team is Antoine Griezmann. The Frenchman never ceases to amaze with his stability and professionalism. Given that he is not young, during the first part of the season, he has already gained dozens of results, which once again proves his irreplaceability. However, this season may become the last Atletico t-shirt for Griezmann. According to insider reports, the striker is considering the possibility of completing his career in Europe and going to the United States to try his hand at MLS. Los Angeles, which is ready to activate the footballer's clause in the amount of €10 million, shows the greatest interest in the player. The team already has former Griezmann's partners in the French national team, Hugo Lloris and Olivier Giroud. They are actively convincing their compatriot to join their project, which adds chances for Griezmann to move to Los Angeles. If the transfer takes place, it will become significant not only for Atletico, but also for MLS, which continues to attract world football stars. And for Antoine himself, this will be an opportunity to enjoy the last years of his career in a relaxed atmosphere, far from the high expectations of European championships. Chelsea unexpectedly lost points again. The Blues lost to Ipswich with a score of 0-2. Chelsea was not so bad and could have taken at least a draw, or even 3 points. The Blues scored almost 2 XG units, but, alas, could not turn them into goals. The statistics did not include the goal of João Felix yet. The Portuguese scored and ran to the offside. Ipswich opened the score thanks to a brilliant penalty, drawn almost on the same spot. I put there under the last post the results of the outgoing year and plans for the coming year. Well, the blue goalkeeper Jurgensen, minimally slippery, barely, a little bit, slightly tickled the attacking Ipswich. He definitely wouldn't have fallen if he wanted to, but he drew everything beautifully and put it together. The referee seemed to have noticed the problem and went to watch VAR, but still put a penalty. If you point to a point for such a contact, then you can play football like this. You run with a penalty and look for a minimal touch of the defender or keeper. Some, by the way, already do this. And with such fouls, the referees only aggravate the tendency that has developed. Ipswich celebrated the victory, the circle of honor, standing ovations, and everything in that spirit. Ed Sheeran almost suffocated someone in the embrace of joy, and still did not spill the beer from the glass. This is, I understand, experience. The first home victory of Ipswich in APL since 2002. Easy to understand. Well, let's move on to the central match of the Manchester United tour. Yesterday, Newcastle United conceded, without any chance. Amu was not visible at all on the field in the first half of the game. The Magpies scored twice in the first 20 minutes. and then they could have scored more. But United at least escaped defeat. There are some 7 points left for the Red Devils before the exit zone. With such a game, there are all chances to win the championship next season. EMU's defence simply does not exist in the case of the second goal. The Mancunians gave Newcastle so much space that it seemed as if Geordie caught them after the cut. But no. Newcastle scored after an ordinary positional attack. EMU needs a restructuring. Without it, no way. And Marim will not be able to cope with this roster. If someone expected the Portuguese to come and the team to immediately turn into power. After all, Ten Hag is such a terrible coach and does not understand anything about football. Then I'm in a hurry to upset you. Chelsea's policy on the purchase of young players remains relevant. The success of the team under Enzo Maresci convinced the Blue leadership that everything was going well, and the pensioners are already planning new winter restocks. Of course, some players will have to be sold, including in order to finance transfers. Ben Chilwell, who only plays in the League Cup, will probably leave the team. He was tried to be pushed off in the summer, but they did not find a buyer who would arrange the player himself. For 6 months, the English agent had to pick up several options for him. Still, the defender is not bad, just does not fit the style of Maresci. It is also likely that Cesaro Cazadei will leave the team. Halfback will return to Italy. Several clubs from the A Series want to sign him. Next to go out will be Corny Chukwuemeka, the halfback, who has amazed everyone with his talent in Aston Villa. Has not played in the APL this season, but they were interested in Barcelona at one time. At the same time, it will not be so easy to sell it. Chelsea is going to earn about €50 million. The money can be used to buy a new striker. Journalist Santi Orno from Foot Mercato writes that the Londoners have cast their eyes on Rondale Colomani from Paris Saint-Germain. The Princes will only be happy to sell the Frenchman who does not play with Luis Enrique. But why Chelsea? The Blues already have too many wingers and strikers. Christopher Nkunku and João Feliz with their high salaries clearly come out much less often than expected. Mark Gio, even after a tricky time in the Conference League, does not receive practice in the APL. Why do they need Colomani? I hope the Frenchman will reject the offer of the Blues. If he does, 2 consecutive failed transfers threaten to ruin Rondale's career. Daily Mail writes that in the summer Chelsea is going to strengthen their defence. At least there is logic in this. The Blues have already made Dino Hasen and Ilya Zabani from Bournemouth their targets, both with great potential. Both have already shown themselves in the APL. Although in Chelsea, with the current competition, they will have to gnaw the ground to break through to the base. Manchester City is preparing a large-scale restructuring, and after it, the club will not be recognised. The legends of the best era in the history of Citizens will be gone. Instead, new faces will appear. According to Team Talk, Kevin De Bruyne is close to saying goodbye to the Citizens. Most likely, Bill Gates will change his registration in the summer, when his contract ends. Of all possible options, he prefers to move to MLS, no matter what money Saudi Arabia offers. KDB is a fan of American culture and likes to fly to the States during vacations. Therefore, there is nothing unexpected here. There were all the prerequisites. Although the decision to refuse €200 million a year is still impressive. Personally, it is not easier for me to look at De Bruyne another year within the top championships. Even better if outside the APL. What options can be in Europe? Given that Kevin will become a free agent, a real battle will unfold for him. PSG would not hurt a player who is capable of sharpening out of nothing. Barca, too, is probably watching the development of the situation, despite the full set of attacking halves. In Italy, Kevin will also be happy. Perhaps Series A is the best choice for a veteran. City, meanwhile, is looking for a replacement for Bill Gates. According to Cote of Sight, the choice of Citizens fell on Jamal Musial. And a long time ago, Christian Falk wrote about his interest in the Germans back in July. But now all the reasons in City are not limited to one interest. Musial has still not extended his contract with Bavaria. despite the fact that the negotiations have been going on for more than 6 months. Jamal, for a minute, grew up in England and dreamed of playing in the APL since childhood. In addition to the transfer, he may be inclined to the likely leaves of Alphonso Davies and Jozo Kimmich. The Munichs do not agree with Mujal on salary, term of contract and withdrawal. All the key points, not some trifles. Bavaria sees a key player in the APL for the next 10 years. Well, City also offers him the same role. The role of replacement for Kevin De Bruyne is not a joke. Mujal's favorite player is Lionel Messi. He has said this more than once. However, it is clear and simple in the game of a footballer, especially in dribbling. And of course, it will be difficult for Jamal to refuse the coach, with whom Messi scored 91 goals in a year and gave 22 assists. Milan officially fired Paolo Fonseca. The decision, for some reason, partly depended on the result of the game with Roma. Firstly, one match should not change anything at all. Secondly, despite the disgusting information background, the team showed decent football and outplayed Roma in XG. Not lucky with the implementation. Rossoneri scored a goal less than expected. The coach said goodbye to the team. It was an honor for me to train with Milan. I hug everyone and thank you for your respect and support. Let's summarize. The results are so-so. 8th place in Serie A. 8 points behind the Champions League zone and 14 to the first line. Milan had one of the best defense in Serie A with Fantecchi. But the team scored too little. The same problem as Juventus. Fantecchi was also unlucky in relations with journalists. The press bent his neck almost from the first days. Moreover, Paulo did not behave like Luis Enrique. Did not send media workers with open text. I think the reason is in the club's leadership. The bosses had no unanimous opinion on Fantecchi and appointed him at the last moment, as they delayed the coach's choice. Juventus Motta is also in the middle of the table. The results are also so-so, but no one thinks to fire Motta. After all, the bosses of the Turin team understand that Thiago is reassembling, and probably even building a team from scratch. And the same was required of Fantecchi. His football is the opposite of what Milan showed with Stefano Pioli. The chaos in the management perfectly emphasizes the choice of replacement for Fantecchi. So, according to Alfredo Pegula, the Devils turned to Maurizio Sarri. But the coach, who was friendly with the journalist, sent them further, because nerves are more important. Moreover, Sarri is no longer young. As a result, Milan appointed Sergio Conceição, a coach of another, excellent from Sarri type. As in Milan, they chose a coach, drew lots, googled a list of free mentors, or threw a dice to whom to make an offer. But in general, Conceição is a good option. Let's be honest, flexible, more practical, more vertical than Fantecchi. With him, the team partially rolled back in the times of Pioli. The results will improve. His football is closer and more understandable to the majority of players. Another thing is that with such leadership, long-term prospects for Conceição are still calling. In Rome, they are looking for a new coach. Claudio Ranieri will become a member of the board after the end of the season. Ranieri wants to make his successor an experienced mentor. The club's leadership is mainly studied by the Italians: Vincenzo Mantello, Massimiliano Allegri, Carlo Ancelotti. The Romans are looking for a coach who will attract fans to the stands and build a long-term project. Ancelotti really likes the club's boss. A hype option, literally shouting that Roma will become a coach, a full-fledged grand, and will fight for Scudetto. The owners of the Africain club like to show their ambitions. But Ranieri was appointed for a completely different reason: to please angry fans. After all, Claudio is the legend of the club, and it is simply impossible not to respect the Italian. And the invitation of Ancelotti will kill two birds with one stone. Apparently, in addition to a solid coaching career with many cups behind Carlo's shoulders and 8 years for Roma. As a footballer, it remains only to agree. Only Papa Carlo is not going anywhere from Real. But of course, they can ask him to go there. After all, Florentino Perez dreams of appointing Alonso's hub. And the results for the Slavs this season are extremely ambiguous. The same as the fresh words of Ancelotti about Roma. Now they talk a lot about Roma. But I am very happy here. Ranieri is my friend. It is obvious that I am very attached to Roma, with whom I have always had wonderful memories. But there is a whole sea between words and deeds. I have a contract for another 2 years, but the contract can be broken, and it can be extended. In short, it all depends on whether Alonso will come to Madrid. If we lose such a cute Bayern, then everyone will have a chance to see the progress of Roma, which has been stumbling in the same place for several seasons in a row. I would not expect Carlo's dad to join the national team. The coach said, "Who knows if Real Madrid will become my last team? I like to train every day. Therefore, for me, the topic of the national team is difficult." Until recently, Ancelotti said that Madrid will definitely become his last team. And here, look, who knows? A good sign for Roma. It is generally known that Florentino Perez has established a dictatorship in Real Madrid. All key decisions are made personally by the president of the cream companies. And he should not cross out the dissatisfied. They are simply fired. There would probably be more of them if it were not for the success of the Madrid players under Florentino. Perez stands on his own until the end, even if he does not agree with the rest of the leadership. So, ex-cream scout Manolo Romero said that at one time Real chose between buying Ronaldinho and David Beckham. Everyone was for Ronnie, except for Perez, and the club eventually signed Beckham. In other words, Perez's position determines everything. Many were against the transfer to Kylian Mbappé, but Perez believed in the Frenchman, and now he intends to make him the key player of the team. The same Manolo said about this, discussing the interest in Vinicius from the Saudi clubs. "I was sure he would leave, if they come with a proposal of more than 300 million. I am sure that Florentino will sell it. He will even personally take it to the airport in his car. 300 million is a lot of money. I think that Mbappé will become Florentino's favorite. He has been chasing him for 7 years. And if Vinicius leaves, then it is worth waiting for a new attacker in reality. Mbappé can just take his favorite position on the left flank. It seems that there is no such strong need in the new 9. But at one time it was not in Beckham, in the position of which Luis Figo played. However, Manolo Romero said that Perez interfered with Holland. He got hooked on Holland. And he will bring Holland. You'll see. I'm sure. If Florentino wants, he will sign Holland." Ex-Madrid scout noted that the transfer is possible, even if Vini does not leave to play for the alleged Olajuwon. For the sake of Erling, Perez can sell Rodrigo. Even despite the loyalty of the Brazilian and the successful game on the wrong flank in recent years. Why does Perez still dream of assembling a working version of Galacticos? It looks like an undisclosed gestalt. Moreover, the first attempt was not so failed. Then Real won a lot of trophies. It's just that with those costs, they expected more, especially against the background of Barcelona's success, which was booming, and without such purchases. Perhaps Perez is going to take into account the previous mistakes and recruit not only Mbappé to Holland for the attack, but also Pajari, like Valverde, so as not to lose their reliability. Frenkie de Jong's career in Barcelona may be interrupted in the near future. The Dutchman turned out to be an unsuccessful investment. He had a good period in Catalonia during the days of Ronald Koeman, when he was used in the position of a tenor. But Frenkie did not manage to become Barcelona's game director. At the same time, the former president of the Catalans set up his successor before the impeachment, signing a huge contract with the Dutch half-defender. Now, taking into account the urgent payments, Barca is forced to pay de Jong 35 million a season. This is the highest salary in La Liga, along with Kylian Mbappé. Only the French have a real contribution in the form of goals and image income. But with the Dutchman, the hand is like a goat's milk. Not on the field, not on the pitch, and beyond his limits. He does not represent any strength. He has long been asking for an ultimatum from the management. And, apparently, it all comes down to the fact that Frenkie will be sold to Saudi Arabia. Instead of him, Barcelona is going to take the star of the London Arsenal. Write the Catalan media. Thomas Partey's contract with the Canadians ends at the end of this season. So far, there is no talk of extension. If the parties do not find a common denominator, the Catalans will gladly take advantage of the moment and sign the player on the rights of a free agent. Transfers from Arsenal to Barcelona rarely ended in a bad result for the Catalans. The Blue Granados invited the legend of the Cannons, Thierry Henry and Cesc Fabregas, who showed themselves well as part of Barca. But these are old examples. And fresh. The Catalans took on the team of Mikel Arteta, de Bashiro Aubameyang, who did not find a common language with the Spanish coach. The attacker arrived in the middle of the season and scored more than a dozen goals, scoring Barcelona with a championship win. Then he was sold to Chelsea for good money. In general, it was a cool transfer, despite the age of the player. As it seems to me, the same will wait for Thomas Partey if he moves to the Catalan capital. Of course, he will not become a legend of the team, but he will definitely make his contribution to the victory of Barcelona. In any case, it will be much more effective and cheaper than Frenkie de Jong. Let these players occupy different positions on the field. Manchester United is planning a restructuring. Until recently, the management of the Red Devils had a list of a dozen untouched players. But in a fresh interview, the novel's manufacturer stated that there are even fewer such players. However, the journalist did not give specifics. But it is easy to guess. First of all, United will stick to the line. Anthropometry, talent, technique, age. No one will sell it. Manuel Ugarte, as well as Euro, has just joined the team. Plus, unlike many players of the club, Uruguay has injuries to V if they are familiar to him at all. Mateo Delicto will not be sold either. He quickly recommended himself in the team. Plus he is young and with the right mentality. Well, brutal physics and speed are ideal for APL. Kobe Mainoo, a talent from the academy, is extremely technical and has a great future. Amad Diallo shone at Amorim, while the best player at Portugal, Onana, is a top-foot player, recently good on the ribbon, closes the position for 10 years and gets rid of the headache. Haaland has increased a lot at Amorim, recently bought, plus young and promising. I'm sure they expected me to call Alessandro Martinez, but given the number of injuries recently, I would not guarantee that he will not be sold. But I am sure that they will send Casemiro if they wait for a suitable offer. Well, the Brazilian, of course, will accept him, and will not continue to fight for a place in the starting lineup, as he calls it. As journalist Bruno Andrade said, representatives of the Saudi League want to see a supporter in Al Nassr and do everything possible to organize a transfer. How great that the composition of this team is not determined by the leadership of Al Nassr. This is a brilliant approach to the development of the team. Reliable like Swiss watch. Mew also wants to sell Marcus Rashford, but the situation with him is even more difficult. Yes, Rashford made up with Amorim and yesterday returned to the application of the club, but he is unlikely to agree to the transfer to Al Nassr. Fitcher his writes that Barca refused the player, like the rest of the top clubs, and now Marcus has only two options, either to go to Turkey or to Saudi Arabia. Of course, you can still fight for a role on the stage of the Dream Theatre, but in this case it was not worth hinting at your departure. Cristiano Ronaldo has not yet won significant trophies with Al Nassr. The Arab Champions Cup is considered a bargain and such a layout is clearly not to the liking of the Portuguese, who took the championship with all his teams sporting Manchester United, Real Madrid and Juventus. Chris does everything possible to achieve the title with Al Nassr, but so far it does not work out. Last season, Al Hilal was head-to-head with all the Saudi teams. Moreover, Al Ittihad had a drop. Now the team has returned and is leading in the league. Al Hilal is behind by 2 points. Al Nassr is on the fourth line, 11 points behind the leader. The title does not smell here. Cristiano is already tired of all this. As Marca's authoritative statement writes, Ronaldo is not going to end his career. But if he does not win the title with Al Nassr, he will leave for a new challenge. Where? As for me, the ideal option would be Sporting. The legendary return. Absolute love of fans and serious chances for the title. Yes, even without Amorim. Victor de Corres will just leave the team in the winter or summer transfer window. And Lisbon will need a new forward. Although Chris can surprise with the choice of the team and return to 1.105 championships if he finds a similar option. Obviously, you need a club with money and from the Champions League. According to Daily Express, Cristiano does not really believe in the title of Al Nassr and is ready to change his registration. In winter, he agrees to a transfer to Manchester City. And the citizens seem to be against him signing. First of all, it's always nice. Secondly, Chris carries a bunch of economic bonuses with him. Thirdly, Holland needs a replacement. So why not? Moreover, in style, Erling is very similar to Cristiano. Unless Holland is also a pressing machine. Guardiola will clearly not require Ronaldo pressing and will come up with something to level the low performance of Chris without a ball. But with him on his feet, Ronaldo is still useful. Plus, after the VPL comeback, Chris will be over-motivated to prove that he is still capable of dragging at the highest level and will give his maximum when he appears on the field. Holland will sweep the defenders of the opponent with his strokes in 70 minutes. Then Ronaldo comes out on the field and brings a result in tough matches. The main thing is that Chris agrees to the role of the Joker. And the question of finances. But the Sheikhs will not save on City. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching and for subscribing to the channel.